everybody, and welcome to another Live with the Sassy Psychologist, Anna Maria Tosco. How are you, Anna Maria?
Hi, Jen. I've put on my Encanto-inspired dress.
I saw it. It's very spring and beautiful.
Today's segment.
And we're talking about Encanto because tell me why we're talking about Encanto.
Right. So there are, I don't know if you've seen the articles, but there's been a lot of different pieces about how psychologists and therapists are really interested in Encanto. And I want to talk about it because, in fact, I am very interested in it. And I want to give you my perspective. I do want to preface this with, Jen, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. If anybody watching here on the Suburban Live wants to comment, disagree, agree, express themselves, please do. Because, you know, we're talking about Disney, we're talking about fictional characters, but sometimes those fictional characters are kind of a doorway into looking within and, you know, thinking about our lives. So if anybody is inspired or motivated, don't hesitate to reach out. Feel free to be angry with me about what I say, or feel free to agree or, you know, express. Spoilers though, Jen? There are spoilers here.
Oh, okay. So if you haven't seen the movie, you're going to find, well, I have to admit to the public that my son's 9 and we have not done Encanto yet. So this is going to be very enlightening to me. So
yeah, we're going to have to get Jen to watch it at some point, because Jen, we can't be friends, I don't think, if you don't watch that movie at some point soon.
One of those things, eh? One of those things.
So, right. Yeah. So, again, different therapists might have a different perspective. For me, of course, this movie is about love. It's about family. And we all know that family and friends are so important. But to me, a lot of my work and practice is about self-worth and self-esteem. Because if that, if there's low self-esteem, or if something affects your self-esteem or your self-worth, the system itself all breaks down. Not only do you feel bad as an individual, but whatever system you're in doesn't benefit either. So self-worth is a huge part of what I do. And what I love about this movie is that while it's colorful and it's about love and it's about family, first and foremost, it's about the relationship you have with yourself and your own self-worth and how that affects the system, which is secondary. So for me, even though it's full of people and love, it does start with the self, and it always should. Talking from a psychologist who does individual therapy, I'm a bit biased maybe, but that's the interest that I have towards this movie. So I think with every character, we can see how they have damaged self-esteem, and they don't have a really great relationship with themselves. So I want to explore that with a few of the main characters, if you will. And I guess we'll start with Mirabelle. Okay. Who is the lead, and I've called her the supporter. So in other words, so basically, Jen, just to give you a little bit of a synopsis of the movie, essentially the grandmother, this tragic story, the grandmother lost her husband in a very, the husband was killed by people who drove them out of their town. So they had to make their way to a new town. On their way to a new town, unfortunately, the husband was killed, leaving the grandmother with her triplets. So the land, the universe, whatever it may be, bestowed upon her this magic, and it created a magic house. And the house is actually a character in the film as well. So Abuela doesn't have magic powers. The house does, and all the blood relatives do, but Mirabelle doesn't. So I like to compare Mirabelle, like she's basically the supporter. So, I like to compare it in real life to maybe the person in the friend group or in the family who didn't go away to like a big university, or didn't do the world travel, or didn't go after that kind of high profile job, but instead kind of stays close to home. And unfortunately, by societal standards or whatever, this person might feel overlooked, might be overlooked, but in the end, there's so much value in that individual, regardless of what they have, how they did it, how much money they have. And I think, Mirabella is a testament to this, that it doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter what you've done. What matters is, your heart. And so she says something, in the quote that I put up there, all I know is I can't stay on the side. Open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. Like she really feels invisible. And she feels invisible because she doesn't have these powers. But the bottom line is you don't need these powers. You don't need these big things in your life to be valuable. So many of us are led astray. So many of us go for that big job, or that, my parents want me to be a doctor, or I'm got all this pressure on me. When you don't have to have those big high profile things to have value. So that's what she brought to me anyway.
I love this. I love this because I just had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she is textbook supporter, and like I was trying to resonate those messages to her as well. It is like so uncanny that I just had that conversation with somebody. Wow.
Oh, that's so cool. But
Very
that's what
cool,
I
yeah.
mean. It's like this it's fictional, but it's really not,
Very
it's just
relatable.
magic what these storytellers can do. So we're not going to do all the characters because there's a lot, but let's go to Isabella.
Okay.
You like my Easter decorations there, Jen?
I do. They're adorable. I just changed the view. There we go.
So yes, Isabella essentially, and it's very easy to piece together when you see it. She's essentially the perfectionist. So when it comes to her relationship with self-worth, her self-worth, is obtained by how perfect she can be. She makes perfect flowers and has perfect poses and has the perfect dress that doesn't get dirty. It eventually does, right? But that's how she held herself, and that's how she believed she was worthy. And it's just so similar, so analogous to the perfectionist in real life. They have to be proper and perfect in order to consider themselves valuable or worthy. But that's so flawed, right? It's the idea that, you don't have to maintain those standards in order to be valuable. But when we latch on to that, and people have made us feel valuable, because Abuela isn't innocent here, right? Abuela makes her feel valuable when she is perfect, when she doesn't, kind of dance all over the flowers and get pollen all over herself. Abuela really values the prim and proper. So she came to say, hey, that's how I'm worthy. That's what makes me valuable. But it's so flawed. We do have to bring down those standards because our body can't take it, and we will break down. We have to see the value, even when we can't make that deadline, even when we are, we do get a worse grade on the test or whatever it is. That's not who we are. We're not the perfection. We're the heart. And so many people need to know that. So yeah, just to quote Isabella, and I love it. And I'm quoting Jenn because these are all in the songs that I'm obsessed with. And it's bad when your kids are telling you to not talk anymore, to stop singing rather. What could I do if I grew? Because she grows flowers. If I grew what I was feeling in the moment, what could I do if I knew I didn't need to be perfect? It just needed to be, and they let me be. Like she's screaming for this kind of peace, and she does get it in the end. We'll talk about that in a sec. Mirabelle's other sister is Louisa. This is what I see most in my office, Jenn. I'm not going to lie. Like I'll start with her quote, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. So her value comes from being of service. And we've spoken about this before. Being of service, fixing over functioning, caretaking to a fault. Full of self-sacrifice. She doesn't give herself a break, and she thinks that that's what makes her valuable. That's her place. That's what she needs to do. But she, funny enough, is the first one to break down in this movie. And I'm so happy it is that way. Because
spoiler alert.
Yeah, right. Right. I do see that in my office, that this is one of the worst things when you just kind of have an identity of giving and doing and giving and doing. Likely it started early. So you give and do and give and do and give and do, and you are going to have a burnout eventually. So I was so pleased to see, I wasn't not pleased about this existing, but I was pleased to see that this was represented. And of course, at the end, what I love is that when everybody learns a lesson, et cetera, I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but Luisa is accompanied by donkeys during this movie. It's so wonderful. And in the end, the donkeys kind of push her onto a hammock and give her like a coconut, with a little drinky poo inside. And it's just, yes, exactly. You are valuable even when you're on your ass. I'm going to say it, on the couch. You don't have to always be fixing and doing to be valuable. And this was represented in the movie, which I was just so excited about.
Thank you for saying that, because I'm so tired.
Yes.
I'm always fixing and doing. I can't sit still.
Yes. It's a lesson for all of us. And it doesn't go away. It's like, I'm going to go to therapy and deal with this. Fine, great. But it's not going to go away overnight either. It's one day at a time kind of thing.
All right, who do we have next?
Somebody we don't talk about. Oh, don't tell me you're laughing at that cheesy joke, Jen.
I'm laughing because I just shared this story that I had to ask my 9-year-old son, why can't we talk about Bruno? And he's like, really, mommy? Like, really? There you go. The misunderstood.
Yes. So this, I feel, so Bruno was misunderstood, and his words were taken out of context, and people shunned him and they rejected him. So like his self-worth kind of came from the acceptance of other people, but then when they shunned him and they discarded him, he basically disappeared, And I just found this analogous to conflict in families. Sometimes there are big ruptures in families, or even friendship groups where people misunderstand each other. And it doesn't necessarily have to end in rupture or bridges burning, but it does sometimes. And it's heartbreaking too when these kind of fights last for years, or people are estranged. Listen, sometimes people need to separate, and that's fine, but sometimes it is over miscommunication. And so that's why what I loved about this was, hey, everybody needs to listen, but not listen to talk, talk back, listen to each other. Everyone needs to have an open mind and to not be scared of what they don't understand. And a lot of people didn't understand, Bruno's gift, and then they misconstrued everything, all the things he said. And so they were scared of what they didn't understand and what they didn't know. And I think the lesson is we do have to be open-minded and to not be scared of what we don't know, but instead to inquire about it. So it was moving to me.
Yeah, what an insightful movie to cut. They're incredible,
Yes.
Disney, the way they do things like that.
Yeah, and don't get me started on Turning Red either. That's for another segment.
Yeah, I know. Or Inside Out, was that one of them?
Yes,
Where it was like,
yes.
just so clever and creative. All right, so we have one more. I know there's a lot of characters in this movie, but we whittled it down to the 5 main.
Yeah. So Abuela, right? The grandmom, I call her the survivor because, like I told you before, essentially her husband was murdered. Like literally, it's actually quite striking a little bit because you don't see the murder itself, but you very well see it was violent and it was heartbreaking. It bawled my eyes out basically. So for her, what happened was, after this tragedy, the magic was bestowed upon her. So she's not magical herself, but the magic kind of created this house, and it was like gifted to her in a way. And so it seems as though she feels indebted to the magic, and so she has to earn it every single day. So there's this kind of indebtedness, and for her, it's like her self-worth or her value comes from having the magic or having obtained the magic itself, which is why we're talking about Abuela last, because it ties everything together here. She had to learn that she was valuable and that people will love her without the magic. So at the end, like Luisa is the first to crack because fundamentally there's unhappiness within them, right? There's something plaguing all of them, as we've been speaking about. So Luisa cracks, and the house starts to break down because they're not happy within themselves. The system breaks down, the house breaks down, and why? It's because they're not happy within. Luisa starts, right? And then one by one, they kind of see that they're unhappy, and then eventually the magic breaks down. And that's Abuela's lesson, was to see, hey, people will love me, people will come together, even when the magic is gone. She doesn't have to have this thing to be happy in life. And so what was so beautiful is that, all of the people, all the whole town that they basically built came together when they saw that the house broke down. So without any magic, Abuela received the support. She received the love. She's not only the love from her family, but the love from the community as well. You don't have to have something big and impressive and beautiful like a house or a car or clothing, whatever it is, to be valuable. Even with nothing at all, it's really about the heart that you have inside. So Abuela learned that lesson. And then, of course, at the end, when everybody was finally happy within, the magic came back. And it's all that much better because now everybody's healthy within, the individual, the system benefits. It's just, so much beauty in all of that. And that's why I loved this movie.
Wow. Amazing. Now I really have to see it.
No, you really do. And I want to continue because any of my Encanto fans out there, I still have stuff to say about Pepa, I have stuff to say about Dolores. And I think I'll just write a blog post. I think I'm just obsessed and it's going to bring me joy.
I love it. Yeah, you should for sure. You should for sure. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yes.
So I know you have 2 little girls.
Yes.
What kind of like you obviously as a parent watching it saw the depth of all these layers and characters. Is it something that the kids grasped? Is it something that sparked interesting conversation?
So with my 4-year-old, she's the type that, kind of just always wants to have fun and doesn't necessarily have the attention span for any of the anything.
Deep.
She's not
mulling.
There. But the other one, my oldest one, she it's like she surprises me sometimes. She says, I wish I had an example, but she can easily say, "Oh, Bruno was upset because, people didn't believe him," or something like that, where it was like, wow. So it can open the door to say something very simple like, yeah, that's why communication is important. So it does, to keep the messages simple, even though it can be very deep, but yeah, you can kind of whittle that down to some really great kind of one-liners, some little lessons about communication, about open-mindedness, about understanding people, about listening to people. And I do think, children of the ages, 5 and up even would definitely benefit from those lessons. So yeah, with the first one, absolutely not. But the second one, yes. Those very simple principles of communication and open-mindedness and listening for sure.
And it's funny to think that even adults still need those reminders, right? But maybe by starting with that next generation really young, who knows where they'll be in terms of understanding mental health, wellness, all of that by the time, they're our age and stuff. It's really interesting how Disney finds these ways of just weaving such deep lessons, but in such simple ways that your child totally grasps that. That's amazing.
Like, are you amazed too, Jenn? Like with your son, like I just feel that there are, even when one of our episodes we had Barbada from Drag Brunch Montreal on, it's just I feel that our kids are going to be so open-minded, so diverse, so brilliant, and I look at them and say, I feel I never had that when I was younger.
I completely agree. On Suburban Parents Talk, we've talked about that as well. I mean, Sarah has teenagers and she's just so optimistic when she hears them interacting because, yeah, they really are open-minded. You think you're going to have to approach certain topics with them and have this big explanation. And they're just so like, okay, that person's that way and we're this way and no big deal.
I'm really excited. I'm excited for them, for sure.
Me too. I love this topic. I think it was so fun to bring something like a Disney movie into our mental health wellness chats. I think this is amazing. And I hope everybody watches the movie now and kind of delve into those character traits. Really interesting, Anna Maria. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Jenn, thanks for doing this with me. It brings me a lot of joy.
Well, I'm so glad. And if anybody's watching, we want to hear your feedback. Tell us if you've seen the movie, what you thought, who you identify with. We'd love to hear more. And we will be back in 2 weeks, as always, with the amazing Anna Maria. So thank you, my dear.
Thanks, Jenn.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you real soon. Bye.